on the lathe. I did my first pass by going through and just trimming down to the shape, and then we had to go back, and when we cut it off, there was a little spot left on the face. So we had to go back and face it again on the other side and drill the hole through the center of the retainers and pass those around. And then we're going to purchase the washers just because they say Jason's telling us it's not practical to make washers anymore. Very few people do it. It's so easy to go and find and purchase them.
Okay, finally with scalability, there are a couple of factors that we wanted to look at. How big or small we could make our parts, as well as how many parts we could make if we needed to. The axle, which we actually machine on the Hasley, we can make an axle if we wanted to make the board extremely large or extremely small. You know, we could make a part much different size, you know, as large as the Hasley would allow us. Also, again, our springs could be manufactured. I mean, you can get springs in absolutely any industrial size. But of course, for the usability of the board, you're really going to need to limit those sizes down just so that an actual person can use them. And, you know, so they're actually going to compress down. Like, we even dealt with those issues ourselves and having to change the size of our spring from being much larger with a bigger diameter and higher spring stiffness, being smaller so that it would be more suitable to our board. But beyond that, everything seems like it could increase or decrease in size as far as we can. As far as difficulties that we encountered, again, our spring dimensions had to be altered from their original size just because we couldn't have anticipated from the SolidWorks file that we were given what the particular spring stiffness would be for our appropriate human specimen. Me, because I'm probably going to be writing it and I don't want to die. So,
For the axle, we had some issues. One issue was I ran into how you gonna hold it. That was one thing we had to do. That's why we had to leave this extra half an inch diameter or a half an inch thickness on the bottom. Another issue was how you gonna hold it. There weren't any parallels, so they would hold up enough of the material in the machine. So we had to make our own parallels. So that was the issue. And then another issue was with CircCam. CircCam is not as smart as we think it is, because I think we learned in 216 that you just put a part in SolidWorks and CircCam is just do whatever you want, but that's not the case, and a lot of times it's not realistic. Like, he was giving me some speeds and feeds of like 12,000 when I can only do like 3,000, I think. So I had to go back a lot of times and change that. And another issue was like a lot of the tools that you have on CircCam you might not have here, because a lot of times I was picking tools and I think one time I had like a 6-inch long tool, and Mr. Dan was like, no, you can't do that. I was like, why not? He was like, it's not possible. So that was one thing.
okay, also, like she said, we had to determine how our axle shafts were going to be secured to our axles, which we've decided we're just going to screw them in and thread the inside of our axles. And then we've had last minute changes to because of the change in the size of our spring, which we couldn't have foreseen before determining what our materials would be made of. We had to change the dimensions and the size of basically all the rest of our SolidWorks models. And then finally, with communication and group difficulties, I mean, obviously we all have kind of group difficulties, but you know, it's just hard to collaborate and work together and to learn how to schedule when you're going to do what and how everyone's going to sort of take their fair share of getting the process. Okay, for future enhancements, for the axle assembly, I mean, we already kind of did this, but to avoid even having to use threads on the inside of our axle, just because that's another process that could have variability, we could just extend our axle shaft to go the entire length of our axle, so that we could just have threads on the outside, and we wouldn't actually have to separate that. For the spring assembly, we obviously have already altered that in several ways. First off, when we initially got our spring retainers from SolidWorks, we could have built those in surf camp and machine them, but it was much simpler to actually just put them on the lathe and make something that would still be functional and completely appropriate for our design. So we reduced the spring and the washer diameters, and also we, instead of using tubing made of rubber for our spring dampener, we just were capable of purchasing a tubing that would make the process much simpler. For our valuable resources, these are the different places that we've gotten, our different materials, whether it's been, washers or springs we got offline and whatnot. But these other places we've gotten our tubing and other materials that we're going to use. Finally, we just want to say thank you to everyone. It's been an interesting experience, and then ask if you guys have any questions.
And specifically, thanks to Mr. Dan for staying after all the time, missing lunch and stuff when you're hungry. Thanks to Mr. Lowe for coming in on Saturdays, open up the